I'm excited to discuss perceptions on permaculture and technology. First, I'd like to portray for a moment my interpretation on permaculture and what that means to me. It's been an interesting journey so far interpreting that word. For me, at first, it was challenging to accept the word itself, even though I was so drawn to the concepts. Permaculture being permanent culture that is derived from a permanent horticultural or agricultural systems, or in other words, regenerative systems. So, that being said, what is permanent and what could ever be permanent, aside from perhaps the now? That seems to be changing now, continually. So then, what does permaculture mean then? To me, I came to this place through the interest in this design science, so to speak, this permaculture design movement, this regenerative earth activism training, if you will. I started to learn about natural systems. In other words, more about forest systems leading into grasslands, into deserts, and how the transitions interplay, and how a forest, like a rainforest, for example, would have such a diversity that is synergizing, as in symphony altogether, with the rhythms around. And furthermore, I learned how to enhance natural systems, integrate lawns into diversified food forests, for example. Even further, I started learning about the life in the soil as it relates to the life in the plants, and downstream, of course, all the way down into the ocean, how these things, so to speak, are all connected. Everything we do has a reverberation, and yet all we have is now, and it's continually churning into the next. I began to learn about probiotic approaches, probiotic solutions for many different systems that we, as humans and as stewards of this earth in many ways, can use. In other words, I learned how, in the terms of fermentation and microbial works, I learned how to culture probiotic microbes. And so this got me thinking about culture, and what is culture? Well, if I can culture a probiotic fermentation, which then I can use to reverberate benevolence, to put it simply, outward, in a sense I'm creating the reverberation of regeneration, which in essence is what? What kind of culture do I want to create? What kind of culture do I want to be a part of? Seems to be the question that comes up. And from what perspectives, high and low, from what perspectives can I make my decisions? It turns out that permaculture, the design science, is a practice which integrates technology, using transitional technologies and ancient human history, in working with the land and being in harmony with the elements that come into play, and the cycles and the seasons as they continued year after year. They were highly aware, that is, the ancients, many of them, such as the Hawaiians or the Mayans or the Aztecs, for example. These people had an innate comprehension of cyclic patterns, a succession of life processes. So when we speak of technology, I say, what do we speak of? I looked up in Wikipedia for a little bit of reference, and of course, very interesting results. It says, technology is a broad concept which deals with animal species, usage of tools and crafts. So this is animal species, use of tools and crafts, and how it affects an animal species' ability to control and adapt to its environment. So from my perception, environment, of course, is our ecology, and ecology in human terms is inseparable from economy. Interestingly, the origin of technology is Greek. Maybe that's not too interesting, but the breakdown of it is technologia. The techne means craft, and logia means saying. So craft, saying. What does that say about what we say and what we do? Of course, this definition can go even broader, including systems and methods of organizational techniques, which really breaks down the whole permaculture design science. It's broken down into basic ethics, such as care for the earth, care for people, and reinvesting surplus or energies into that regenerative cyclic understanding. So reinvesting surplus into that. And also principles it's founded on, such as the problem is the solution, doing things with the least amount of energy for the greatest effect, using things relative to location, using thoughtful and protracted observation, which seems to be one of the biggest ones, observing the elements, the sectors, so to speak, the sun, the wind, the annual rainstorms, the people coming through, the animals, the life forms, the rocks, all of the sectors that come into play in our surroundings. So this discussion of there being two sides in this great division, to me, is truly a perceptual thing. It means we see ourselves as being separate. And I think that this is a collective thing, and a lot of us experience it individually as we are separate in our bodies, apparently, from everything else. And yet, how could we possibly be separate from anything else and everything else? How can we be separate? On cosmic terms, how could anything be wrong? What is a problem? What is a problem? So, dismantling civilization, giving up technology. Well, if technology is, getting back to my notes here, simply defined as an animal species' usage of tools and crafts and how it affects an animal species' ability to control and adapt to its environment, well, I think that if we were totally to give up technology by its most basic definition, we would probably not exist. And so I pose the question, what is technology and what does that mean to you? And how do you see yourself as you walk on your path in this life, on this planet?